Hi everyone.
Sit down, maybe.
I hope you're safe. Tuesday night, dozens of federal agents, including ICE and FBI, raided a South Side Chicago apartment building. They descended from Black Hawk helicopters and jumped out of budget moving trucks.
Y'all disturbing the peace, and it's 1 a.m. It's kids that stay in that building. Y'all flashbanging. Y'all not being considerate.
They threw flashbangs into the hall of a suburban apartment building, not far from where I almost lived before deciding to come to Morgantown. Families had their doors broken down in the dead of night. Federal agents shoved guns into the faces of sleeping citizens and said, "Fuck them kids."
A little girl come around the corner, because they was bringing the kids out too, had them zip tied to each other. One of them literally laughed. He was standing right here. He said, them kids.
One woman had to hold her naked, crying baby for 3 hours with her wrists zip tied together. Can you imagine that? Trying to hold your scared, screaming, naked baby in the middle of the night. Plastic zip ties bruising your wrists from how tight they are.
They zip tied the kids together. ICE put out a statement saying they were pursuing Trinidad gang members, but U.S. citizens living in the building say they were detained too. The cops told them that if they had any unrelated warrants, they wouldn't be going back home.
So remember that stop sign you ran 3 years ago in Virginia? You may have forgotten about it, but the government didn't.
37 people were ultimately arrested after agents separated children from their parents on the street.
Just treated us like we were nothing.
Days after ICE agents conducted a late-night military-style raid on a South Shore apartment building, congressional lawmakers offered the press a tour inside. On the same day, Governor J.B. Pritzker told a national audience that the search for a few criminals quickly turned into a siege.
I believe it is unconscionable for us to continue working as if so many of our neighbors, family, friends, coworkers, even ourselves, are not living under a domestic terror campaign implemented by our own government. As if there are not those among us who are flinching every time they hear the doorbell ring. As if some of our coworkers are not constantly wondering whether Immigration and Customs Enforcement is going to show up to their kid's school and use their kid as bait, or violently arrest their spouse in the middle of their lunch at work.
They just took in front of his kids. In front of his kids.
But like, what were the kids saying?
They were crying because they either didn't have papers, or their
kids, like in your classroom.
The kids, or their parents or grandparents that had papers. So like when we were going out, like they were telling us like, if your parents don't want you to go out, just stay here.
An attack on us is an attack on all of America. This weekend's attack on workers and on families, children were arrested this weekend. It's just the pattern of escalation that we've been seeing in our communities. It's just that it happened downtown. Right now in Broadview, there are 200 people in a place that is not a detention center.
This is not only happening in Chicago, it is also happening in Memphis and Portland and of course Los Angeles. These are being used as training grounds. Remember?
This is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war too. It's a war from within.
After the government shutdown went into effect on October 1st, the U.S. Department of Agriculture updated their website with a banner reading, "Due to the radical left Democrat shutdown, this government website will not be updated during the funding lapse. President Trump has made it clear he wants to keep the government open and support those who feed, fuel, and clothe the American people."
President Trump will end the radical left's reign of terror in Portland once and for all. The president has directed Secretary Hegseth to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland and any ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa and other left-wing domestic terrorists.
The War Department requires the next step. Underneath the woke garbage is a deeper problem, and a more important problem that we are fixing and fixing fast.
Only in recent decades did politicians somehow come to believe that our job is to police the far reaches of Kenya and Somalia, while America is under invasion from within. We're under invasion from within. No different than a foreign enemy, but more difficult in many ways because they don't wear uniforms. At least when they're wearing a uniform, you can take them out. These people don't have uniforms.
NSPM 7 stands for National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, which is something Trump recently signed. NSPM 7 is different from the executive order that labeled like Antifa as a terrorist organization. NSPM 7 is going to redirect the Joint Terrorism Task Forces throughout the government and specifically directs them to interrupt these kinds of groups and activities before a crime is committed. But it's not like they're just targeting specific groups of organizing or anything. No, they're saying entities or even individuals that can be identified based on some indica. Anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity, support for the overthrow of the United States government, extremism on migration, extremism on race, extremism on gender, and of course none of that is defined. Also includes hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family, hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on religion, and hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on morality. For the FBI, the NSPM 7 directs them to take their 200 terrorism joint task forces, which is over 4,000 individuals working on them, to all start focusing on this issue.
This is not politics as normal. These are threats against the American people, and we should be treating them as such. Just because we do not see the violence directly in front of us does not mean that it doesn't exist. In fact, that willfully ignorant complacency is what fascists want. They are counting on you staying safe in your comfort zone, easily distracted. They want you to say, "It's not my problem. I'm not my brother's keeper. Besides, I have to go to work. I don't have time to worry about the military patrolling my coworkers' streets and harassing them and their families. I've got bills to pay. I've got mouths to feed." And if we continue to just do our jobs and pretend everything is normal, then when the military comes for you, because they will, they always do, who do you think will be coming to your rescue?
No heart, these people. No heart.
And after that, I still went on the bus. I had my exam the next day, right? I still had to study for it. It just hurts me because those are people who are my community. Even weirder to think your family's life could be disrupted by just that one moment of an officer detaining you, detaining your uncle, father, or anybody in your family.
These moments we are living through will be recorded in history books. Maybe not our own, but in other countries, they will carry on as normal. And in their textbooks, they'll write about the unsurprising complacency of Americans in the face of authoritarianism.
We're not just going to be rolling out of Chicago here, but we're sending in the Department of War at the request that I made to Secretary Hegseth. They're going to be rolling in here within the next 24 hours.
I will not work until all federal troops have been removed from the occupied cities of the United States. Instead, I'll use my working and waking hours to put this information into something cohesive so that it can be shared.
The Department of Homeland Security says those, quote, agitators were blocking an ICE vehicle and throwing bottles. In his own words, that man, Reverend David Black, said, quote, "I told them there was still time to repent, believe the good news, and turn from their wicked ways." That's when they opened fire.
And I hope that you, too, will recognize the severity of this moment. And you will do the work that needs to be done and carry this message to whoever needs to hear it. This is not a resignation. This is a wake-up call to the state of emergency our country has entered.
And again, this is all just the beginning. Today, NBC News is reporting the White House is now holding serious discussions about invoking the Insurrection Act of 1807, a law that the White House believes would allow Trump to marshal federal troops to act as law enforcement agents in our cities without nearly as many legal constraints over how those troops could operate.
And I hope that if our company cannot, then my coworkers, my friends, the people who are what make this company successful and profitable can stand on their principles of courage, care, and collaboration. When you learned about World War II and the Nazis and the Holocaust, did you ever think about what you would have done at that time? Because what you're doing right now says it all. In the words of Mother Jones, future generations will not charge us for what we have done. They will condemn and charge us for what we have left undone.